Welcome to SJGames Live, friends. Today, it looks a little different. We are ready for spooky season here. And part of the reason for that is we are talking about the Choose Cthulhu series of books, which you can already get versions or volumes 1 through 6, but we have a Kickstarter up right now for volumes 7 through 10. Brandon's going to go ahead and link that up on the chat there. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about that Kickstarter. So we're going to start off with that. What do we have here? So this Kickstarter started a couple of days ago. We have 9 days left on it, and we are at almost $39,000 of the $7,500 goal. So we've met the goal already. Thank you so much for those of you who already pledged for this one. If you're not familiar with the Choose Cthulhu series, these are a series of books in a style where you, while you're reading through, you come to decision points, and they will have you jump around the book based on which decision you make, and so you can have several different paths through the story. Each of these is based on one of the H.P. Lovecraft stories in the Cthulhu mythos. So, for example, in these early ones, we have The Call of Cthulhu, At the Mountains of Madness, Shadow over Innsmouth, The Dunwich Horror, and The Nameless City. That is 5 of the first 6 volumes.
The other one's at my house.
The other one is in Brandon's coffee table somewhere. But we are working on 7 through 10, which books are going to be The Arkham Madhouse, The Color Out of Space, which I'm told has a new mechanic in it, corruption mechanic.
Nice.
The Festival, and The Whisperer in Darkness.
Classic Lovecraft tales.
Yeah, all of them classic Lovecraft tales. Just see if we've got anything in here. We've got these ones coming out. Summaries of all of them.
There's bookmarks.
There's a pledge level, stretch goal rather. Trying to scroll down to those. The $50,000 stretch goal is for 4 Choose Cthulhu bookmarks, 1 for each of the new books. And that will be if we hit the 50,000 goal, backers who are getting a physical reward will get 1 of each of these bookmarks, which has cover art of each book on it. They're 2x7 bookmarks. As far as add-ons, we have digital and physical copies of the first 6 volumes. Some good old Cthulhu dice and dice bags, coins, Chibi Cthulhu dice bags, Shea Cthulhu. A lot of our Cthulhu stuff is available as add-ons in this Kickstarter. We are doing some international shipping. We've got some prices listed in the Kickstarter project there. So if you are in so we have US, Canadian, German, EU, and UK shipping available.
Any chance we can add bookmarks if we only pledge for PDFs? I don't see anything that says you couldn't.
It does say it's for physical versions only, because it's got to be a pledge where we're collecting shipping for you. You'll have to, if you're going to try to combine it with other physical add-ons, not the book specifically, I'd ask in the Kickstarter project and see if Daryl has the answer for that. But if we've got to be sending you a physical package at the least to be getting those. But right now the stretch goal says for those who are getting the physical books, we'll add in the bookmarks. Where's my Twitch channel? There we go. But we're extra. Oh, we're extra dark. Or is it? No, I'm like, we look extra dark on Twitch. No, I just have my screen display upset way down.
We are at extra dark also.
Okay. And why don't we get rid of that person?
I don't know how you do that.
Oh, all right. Well, then I'll just do that. Gone.
I don't have controls for anything.
Gone. Well, they're gone now. But welcome in, Turtle. Good to have you here with us. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them. And if I can't, then we'll have you pass them on to Daryl, who's obviously going to be running our Kickstarter campaigns as always. I hope you are enjoying the beginning of spooky season. It is fall is not in the air here. It's still in the 90s outside, but we're trying to get into it in spirit at least. So let's go ahead and go into one of the old Choose Cthulhu books. I think today, unless chat has a specific request, we're going to do the Nameless City. Last time we did this, a year or so ago, when the first ones came out, we did the Mountains of Madness.
The Nameless City.
Turn the other way. Always choose Cthulhu.
When
You
it
can
shows up,
You can
it's not
certainly do
dreaming.
that. And you get to be eaten last. Probably.
Or first, if you're lucky.
Or first. Alright, here we go. H.P. Lovecraft's The Nameless City by Ginny Valrus. Your name is George Aberdeen. Miskatonic University has sent you on an archaeological expedition to the desert of Araby. You've been lost for several weeks. Your wineskin is almost dry, and the scorching sun, which never takes a day off, comes out beyond the burnt horizon. You struggle to remember how it all started. How is it possible that only a month ago you were at peace in your house near the campus, skimming a book? And how is it that you found what you found in that ancient copy, a manuscript that you had borrowed from the Miskatonic Library of the names, Miskatonic Library of the Incunabula, to write a report, has led you to one of the most inhospitable areas on the face of the earth in search of an illusion, Nameless City. Your chapped lips hurt when you laugh. You laugh because it's hard to accept that your life has taken such a drastic turn, and that from the comfort of your Victorian house, you've ended up balanced on top of this stinking animal, blinded by the mirages of the sun and about to collapse. You remember the book very well. It was Gaspard de Nord's translation of the volume titled Livre Divin, and you remember that you came across the book just by chance. Its back cover, which had been worn by age, revealed a hidden parchment. You removed it with extreme care, thinking you had found a philological treasure. The parchment we found was yellowed, age-worn, and written in Arabic. Excited, you had asked your family's old attorney, Albert A. Baker, for help. Not only did he study law, but in his youth he studied the languages of the Arabic countries, including some rare dialects. He was the one who helped you translate that manuscript, and he was the first to be frightened by the horrific potential of what it contained. When did you decide to willingly give in to madness and unreason? Was it at the very beginning, when the words Desert of Araby or Apocryphal Nightmares of Damascus came out of the translation? Or was it near the end, when the shaking hand that penned that snaky writing put a name, the first and last name, to the Nameless City? Nameless City. Such an enticing spell enveloped upon you reading those words. The curse of Araby and places no civilized man had ever set foot in. That ancient parchment became an obsession. In the following days, you sought advice from some of your colleagues, such as Henry Armitage, whose doctorate in letters and philosophy qualified him as one of the best trained minds in the university. You were excited to show him your finding, and he, just as excited, helped you figure out the most obscure excerpts from their connection to Damascus, the eclectic Greek philosopher. Almost missed that. Turn to page 40, not 4. What does Damascus have to do with the lost ruins of Araby? Could those pagan schools have gathered information that the Roman world, almost entirely Christian by then, condemned to death? You found there were excerpts from his main work, Difficulties and Solutions of the First Principles, and Byzantine Patriarch of Constantinople Photius's Bibliotheca. That thread led you to those fragments, always seeking a match with those words in Arabic, nameless and city. After much sweating and some short trips to dirty, seldom-used libraries, you found it. You managed to collect enough data to persuade the advisory board at the university that in a remote region in Araby, there were rumors that from the sands rose the ruins of ancient buildings that were there before the arrival of the Sabians migrants, remnants of an archaeological site of immeasurable value, whose adobe and stone buildings could be old enough to escape the memory of Thebes and Meroe. You are exceedingly happy to be granted funding. Said and done, you came via New York, London, and Cairo, Riyadh, and now, weeks later, here you are, about to die of hunger or thirst, willing to slit your camel's throat and eat him if that gets you a couple extra hours. A short interval of survival with which to advance for another half a mile. You are lost in the middle of somewhere the natives call the sun's anvil. Half a heartbeat away from starvation, your weak thoughts bring you back to the starting point of this adventure. Your conversations with Baker at Armitage and the corroded parchment. What a death trap you've walked into. Suddenly, you discern some silhouettes on the horizon, above the dunes. It could be a mirage, another one, but it could also be men on camels. Peaceful merchants or cruel desert bandits? Who knows? You consider whether approaching them would mean your salvation or your death sentence. And now we come to the first decision point.
Ooh.
If you spur your camel towards those dark figures, turn to page 85. If you think it's best to stay away from them, go to 8. So what does chat think? Should we go towards them or stay away from them?
The dunes have ears?
The dunes have ears?
I haven't seen that one.
Didn't say anything about ears. They have silhouettes on the horizon.
What does chat think? What were the choices?
Do we go towards the potential men on camels, or do we hide from them, go away from them? Towards or away? What do we think, chat? Welcoming Goshawk. Maybe look up whoever else we've got here.
Yeah, one vote for stealth. Everyone else wants to go towards the camels.
All right, towards the camels then. Mark where we came from, just in case. Just in case we have a very, very short stream.
That's where the bookmarks would come in.
That's where the bookmarks come in very handy. You drop them in that last spot so you can go back to it. I know how to do these. I did these a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
You approach the men, if that's what they are. Now you just need to figure out if they're friendly or if they belong to those dangerous tribes of desert bandits you've been warned of.
What?
They look sullen and threatening. When they see you coming, they ready their guns just in case you're a threat. But you, who know the customs of the Bedouin people, call upon Diafa, the principle of hospitality among travelers. They eye you suspiciously, but agree to your accompanying them to their camp, which is no further than a 6-hour-long journey. You sincerely thank them, and when you're asked why you've come to such a place, you tell them about your quest to find the Nameless City. Hearing this, you notice them tense ever so slightly. They exchange knowing looks but remain quiet. You ask them what is wrong, whether you're unknowingly made a faux pas, but they just offer you a sip of water. They watch you with analyzing eyes, as if one of you were keeping a terrible secret. The campsite, a group of tents sheltered behind a dune, appears just moments later. You see more men and women, as well as camels, a settlement of travelers that has decided to camp here today. A man who introduces himself as Lasky Al-Fayed, the patriarch of the clan, invites you to his tent and shares his food. This is a great honor, and you are very grateful. When you tell him what you came to the desert to find, he's dumbfounded. The Nameless City is a ghost from the past, he tells you, one you should not awake. There are dark and obscure rumors about that place. But does it really exist? Have you seen it, you ask, hopefully. Even if they don't want to take you there, they could give you some directions. I advise you to forget it, honored sir, he says in a pleading voice. Dark legends mention a place on earth made not for men, and which stood there long before we came. Before we came? Humans. Before who came? Humans. Flames crackle in the fire. An odd wind shakes it. But there are writings that speak of it. I have read of an old Arab poet, Abdul al-Razed. When he hears the name, Al-Fayed tenses as if bitten by a snake. Don't you dare speak that accursed name in my home, he shouts, and gestures to protect himself from the evil eye. It's not a good memory, nor someone worth summoning. Sorry, you apologize, blushing. Why the hostility? I didn't know he was considered persona non grata here. Mad poet, voice of the dead, in the abyss of madness and dementia. That sick madman dared to travel to prohibited places and composed his poems and wrote his accursed books, honoring the horrors he encountered there. He was an ungodly man. He shudders. Did he know the location of the lost city? Yes, and it was there in those old dusty streets where he composed his most famous verse. Which one? In a low voice, with an odd glimmer burning in his eyes, he recites it. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die. He shows you an old medallion. The void of time that separates you from it shakes you to the core. According to your host, that medallion was found by his children near a depression in the soil a couple of miles northeast from here, in the Sun's Anvil. A despicable place for life and human sanity. You scrutinize the medallion that Al-Fayed gifts you as a token of protection, and soon you feel that an unfathomable abyss of time stands between you and its origin. You stare with horror at what it represents, a sort of hunched cross between a human, reptile, and satyr, clad in a ritual robe. It holds some sort of impossible-to-describe artifact in its hands, but with a little imagination, it could be a futuristic gun taken from the fantasies of H.G. Wells or Jules Verne. You thank him and tell him you'll depart the next day for the Sun's Anvil. Al-Fayed wishes you luck and tells you his children will escort you as far as they can, but they won't go near the valley of the Icewind Dale. When you ask him what that is, he answers with a shiver. The place where it's said that once stood the Nameless City. His gaze is fixed on you, as if judging whether you are fit to undertake such an adventure. And he speaks anew. He makes an odd, rising inflection at the end, as if somehow he is questioning you. Your dreams are pushing you too far, university man. You leave the next afternoon, after the sun's strongest hours have passed. At midday, the temperature is around 130 degrees, but now it's down to a pleasant 105 degrees. A couple of days after setting out with the merchant's children, a sandstorm catches you by surprise. There's something supernatural in the way it appeared out of nowhere. You hear odd voices swept by the wind. Beyond those, a melodic sound, something artificial, like a sort of alien music. Al-Fayed's children gesture protection with their fingers and entrust themselves to Allah, but you doubt that any gods will have anything to do with this. Hours later, the winds have separated you from your guides. You cry their names fruitlessly. In the middle of the tempest, you can't even hear your own voice. You can't hear or see a thing, only the maelstrom of sand. Will you meet your end here, in the middle of the most absolute nothingness? In the air, quite distant, you hear the abhorrent music again, almost as if it were a preternatural siren song. Lost and scared, turn to page 68. You have no idea how many days the storm lasts, but you fancy it's an eternity. A terrifying entity lost in the fog between walls of sand and dust one cannot cross, and hurricanes whose friction burns your skin and guts and scratches the whites of your eyes like sandpaper. Until one day it all vanishes. The winds die down, the calm comes over, and the sun, at last, makes its way towards you, letting you enjoy the landscape that has unfolded around you. The sight is breathtaking. You don't know what remote confine of the desert you've made your way, but what's here almost stops your heart in awe. You swallow. What could it be? The sun is a bucket of blood, and the horizon is a taut wire. Just as you've exhausted your strength and you feel like you are about to pass out, the storm starts to die down, and the gray horizon turns to a roseate light edged with gold. Then you see it. And at first you think it's a mirage, caused you by your fevered state. Shapes emerging from the sand, covering many square miles of desert, far and wide. Edges of rocks, dense, dark masses that can only be buildings. Apertures of very different shapes, like wells on the ground, leading to who knows what untrodden depths. It's a city, or what's left of it after being buried for thousands of centuries at the mercy of sandstorms. Could it be the lost city of legend? The one without a name? You finally found it. It's possible, although at this moment you even question your own sanity. Suddenly, a loud metallic peal is heard in the valley. Music, cosmic, outlandish, ominous sounds, unlike anything a human has ever composed. A draft of air that resembles the moans of a living creature comes from one of those openings in the ground, from some remote depth. Who could it be? What evil creature or musical instrument was cursed with a throat that could produce such a sound? Trying to fight off the fear, you set out for the valley where the city has emerged, hoping you'll never know the answer. You wander between the brooding ruins of houses and buildings, unable to find inscriptions or friezes that mention men. You fail to see any allusions to the old civilizations we know of, like the Egyptians or Mesopotamian. How could this be? What sort of civilization doesn't sculpt their fate or their myths so that they can survive the trap of time? You can't see any logic in this morbid architecture, nor the smallest proof that it had been built by human hands. Even some proportions in these buildings make you feel uneasy. There are no bystanders but the wind that is old as time. It blows between the rocks and the white moon that rises like a naked bone. Start exploring the city, praying you won't find something your brain won't be able to take. Well, Trapple, you found the Nameless City. Congratulations. Or should we say condolences? Examine the map on pages 102 to 103. There you'll find the buildings are numbered.
Oh,
These are the pages you can jump to as you explore the city little by little. Don't lose sight of this map. You can always come back to it to explore another building. And good luck. The ancient enigmas of the Nameless City await you. All right. I'm going to see if I can bring this up here and get a look at the map. Moment at least.
right there.
All right. If something looks interesting, put its number in chat. Otherwise, Brandon and I will figure one out.
I already know where I want to go. Let's see. Chat says 91. Anything else? Oh, 64.
91, 64, or we'll do them in order, assuming we make it through all of them.
61. That was what I wanted to do.
All right, 91, then 64, then 61.
Another vote for 91.
91. All right, yeah, we'll do 91 first then. All right. You reach a plain where the sand deposited by the wind seems to conceal an old painting. Below the large deposit of yellow dust, straight, black, dark lines show here and there. You walk in ever broader circles like a cartographer setting the limits of geographic landmarks. An hour later, you're reasonably confident that the shape drawn by those concealed lines is that of a 9-point star. And in at least 2 points, there is an ingress. Cracks that might well have served as sewers in a distant past where there was water to drain. What could be the meaning of these lines? Is it a religious or purely ornamental meaning? Or maybe something more practical? You recently heard about a great finding in South America, where there are large lines that popular imagination has turned into landing strips for carriages of the gods. But you don't know if you think this is the same thing. Besides, what sort of forgotten gods would want to land here? Determined to investigate, you slip through one of those sewers. It's a long and narrow pipe whose walls, despite the desert's heat, still retain some lucky, dormant humidity, fossilized but watery dampness. You descend further into darkness, to the most remote depth, where the unexpected wind that brings the metallic inhuman music that has had your hairs on end seems to emanate. Suddenly, the tunnel opens to a domed gallery that ends in an ugly flight of stairs. They are small and steep and will give you nightmares for the rest of your life. You'll come to learn what they are for, and who treaded them long ago. The ceiling is also quite low, uncomfortable even for an average man like yourself. In the dark, as the tunnel becomes narrower and more cramped, gems of wisdom from your demonic books come to mind. Like the words of the demented Al-Hazred once wrote, "That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die." But not only this, but also fragments from Damascus's heretical works, and infamous sentences from the delirious Image du Monde by Gauthier de Metz. Are you hallucinating? Has the darkness of the underworld overpowered you? All of a sudden, the tunnel opens into a bigger chamber, full of odd objects. In this long and narrow chamber that resembles an extension of the corridor, you see niches carved into the walls. They are lined with many wooden cases with glass fronts. You walk up to them and examine them closely. They're oblong and horizontal, unsettlingly like coffins. Underground phosphorins of mineral origin cast light on them, the same light that lets you see where you're going. Fantastic drawings compose a continuous mural, embellishments that one simply cannot describe. Clearly, they were not carved by human hands. The coffins contain the mummified remains of abhorrent creatures whose ugliness stretches the limits of what any civilized mind could handle. They are reptiles mixed with dogs or hyenas and satyrs, with twisted horns and foreheads broader than Jupiter's. Their lack of a nose, their alligator-like jaws and fingers, all these characteristics place them in a paleontological category of their own. The worst of all is they wear rich clothing and ornamental jewelry, and that denotes an advanced intelligence, which scares you the most. Yeah, we have artwork. Artwork of the horrible things no one wants to remember.
Oh.
Page 38. You stagger back, filled with terror, away from the cases with the corpses. But you can't get too far away from them because they are everywhere, stored on the floors, walls, and ceilings for the rest of eternity. Thousands upon thousands of mummified representatives of some ancient race. The friezes on the wall show grotesque imagery, commentaries on the rights of a civilization that didn't believe in death. What old country does not have myths about the afterlife? But which did perform sacrifices for their perverted gods. In one of the drawings, you see a slender reptile clad in a robe, a sort of high priest, about to sacrifice a poor old man on an altar. The priest seems to be standing on top of a great pyramid or ziggurat, at whose feet a great city full of slaves, humans undoubtedly, and the underlings of that abhorrent reptilian race, is spread out. Suddenly, a noise startles you terribly. Something heavy has moved, making a din at the end of the corridor, casting a shiny golden light. It's as if one of the walls has detected your presence and opened up, like a great panel, so you could see what lies beyond. Noises come from the back corridor as if something were coming your way. Something quite fast.
Run.
You're trapped between two unknown phenomena. Down one end of the corridor, there's an intense and mysterious light. There's an oddly artificial quality to it, so it can't be a window to the outside. On the other end, there are those things coming toward you from the back corridor, cutting off your only exit. You decide to wait till whatever comes from the corridor catches up to you, turn to page 56.
Uh-oh.
If, on the other hand, you resolve to go towards the light, run to page 69, fast. So what will it be? The things coming down the corridor, or the mysterious light that is in the wall that's opened up? One vote for going towards the light. 2 for the light. 3 for that. Sounds like we're going towards the light. Usually say don't do that. All right. You approach the golden halo that seems to bathe the area as if you walked into the sun's crown. It's hot, but it's inexplicably dry and cold. And then you let out a howl of deep and utter surprise. You just peered out into an infinite void of unlimited radiance, like the whole world might look when gazing down from the peak of Mount Everest. A sea of lustrous mist. It's as if the corridor extended in such a gigantic underground cave that its limits exceeded your range of vision and are blurred in the frontiers of that ominous radiance. There's no doubt something down there, something that makes incomprehensible noises, and that mysterious music you've been hearing all along. Mental associations are curious, and you shrink with fear of the idea that, except for the poor human figure destined for sacrifice that you saw in the friezes, you are the only human form amidst the relics and symbols of primordial life. There are winding stairs that go down into the depths of the world, and which may lead to the base of this titanic cavern. The abyss poses a dilemma for even the feisty explorer. Go down and stare at those marbles with your own eyes, even if it damages your sanity, or backtrack as fast as possible before some nameless beings notice you. Not even the physical horror of your situation when contemplating such a vast panorama as this world full of spectral mist, compared to the feeling of surveying the archaic scenery, so huge it changes your perspective. Here, time itself has become the guardian of nameless and profane secrets. Then a hurricane gale force pushes you off your feet and hurls you downstairs. It causes a cacophony so loud that it makes your skull vibrate. You scream in pain, hugging the sides of your head so it doesn't burst, and you fall. You roll uncontrollably down the stairs, hurting yourself all the way to the landing of the long staircase. Poised where 5 or 6 other branches open up, all of them winding, twisted, and difficult to maneuver. Holding your head where the fall cut your scalp, thankfully it isn't too deep, you look around. You shudder because from this distance you can make out the shapes inside the radiance. Sharp tips of stone that come out of a sort of haze. Vertical slabs full of small windows that resemble inhabited obelisks. Shadows of large constructions in the shape of bridges, and small flames of combusting gases that twisted chimneys exhale. It's a city, but it's not a human city. That's for certain, and there seem to be inhabitants. The closest building to you is like a pagoda, except the eaves of the roof are upside down, and the door is open, as if the owners don't mind anyone coming in. Actually, it seems there are no windows or doors anywhere, only holes in the walls. If we head towards the first building and explore it, we'll turn to page 93, and if we keep walking down the stairs to the deep city, we go to 42. So do we duck into the pagoda, or do we go down the stairs to the deeper city?
That's one vote for the first building.
First building, deeper city, pagoda.
It's about even.
It's about even. What do you think, Brandon? You want to break the tie?
Let's check out the pagoda.
The pagoda, all right.
Nothing
into the
bad
building.
could be in there, right?
Of course not. What could possibly go wrong? Why didn't the architects need doors? Perhaps if you live in the underground city, you're trustworthy. No one sneaks down here uninvited. Every building belongs to every inhabitant. Maybe the very concept of property hasn't been invented. The main door leads to a circular chamber with abhorrent decoration, full of objects whose purpose your mind cannot grasp. It could be a sort of storeroom, or even museum, or simply the home of one of those creatures, filled with the objects they collect throughout their lives. The noise comes from an upstairs floor. A sort of cough or guttural grunt, you couldn't tell. There's a staircase with the same small, low steps you've grown used to that ascends in a spiral. Trying to make as little noise as possible, you climb the steps one at a time till your head pokes out in the landing and you see what's up there. Hold your breath.
Is it a kitchen?
The second floor looks like a study room. The walls are covered in cupboards and there's a large, low desk in the center. An inkstand? Cupboards are full of seemingly quite thin and half-transparent obsidian sheets. Each has an irregular outline that's different from the rest. They're full of cuneiform doodles whose internal symmetry resembles some sort of writing. But there are also drawings that look more like technical diagrams than artistic expressions, surrounded by dots and grooves. But what catches your attention the most is the creature that sits before the inkstand. Put there. It's one of those creatures, a cross between a hyena, a reptile, and a Greek mythological creature. It appears very old and decrepit, and it's much more hunched than ones you've encountered so far, as if its body were hanging from its arched spine. It's carving a sheet of obsidian with what appears to be an instrument that works with heat. What sort of incredible knowledge is this creature recording for posterity? Slowly, the chronicler spins his chair and looks at you. The two of you are paralyzed, eyes fixed on each other. Neither can blink. A moment later, he extends a kind hand and invites you to sit on a stool by his side. Dazed, unsure of how to react, you obey. You almost have a heart attack when the being slowly moves his mouth, as though trying to accommodate his tongue into sounds he wasn't designed to produce. And he speaks in sort of proto-historic Sabian language. Man from up? You don't understand him at first, but then he points a finger with a broken nail at a nearby helmet. You put it on, and the language becomes comprehensible in your head. You shouldn't be here. There is no place for your people, he rasps. The fungi from Yugoth should not have let your race prosper. They are our friends. I came here by accident, you mumble in that forgotten tongue. What are you? Why are you here? No. Question is, why are you here? The old man mutters. You are impossible. We are as we were millions of years ago. He's right. You never thought about it that way. It's you, the human race, who climbed down from the trees and lost your body hair. I am the chronicler. I observe, date, and write. I'll write your visit too, so that the memory of this day is not lost in eternity. How is it you're still alive, hidden in the depths of the world? You ask the chronicler. At first, there was heat and gas, primordial fire, whole continents of melting lava. Then it rained for millions of years, and your oceans came to be. The air on the surface turned unbreathable, and we had to lock ourselves down here. We who were once strong and mighty, who once ruled the world, hidden like the horned viper, humiliated, unable to live under the cruel sunlight. The old man appears quite sad and melancholic, as if remembering the days he himself lived as a child. That's impossible. Is he suggesting his race is immortal? Is that why there are no references to the afterlife on their friezes? But we've worked. Well, yes, we have. Patiently. With the aid of our brothers, the Yugoth. They possess the knowledge. They fly over new pastures where the damnable oxygen is not an issue. The new city is almost completely finished. Down here, there are but few of us. What new city? Where have you built it? The creature takes some time to react, but he ends up looking up at the ceiling, and you realize that his stare alludes to a place in that direction. Very far up. Maybe beyond this cavern. Maybe up above the world at the surface. Maybe beyond the clouds. The chronicler is absorbed by his engravings and doesn't say a word. You set the translating helmet in its place and leave the room, crestfallen. What he's told you has left you deeply disturbed. Before leaving, you take a key that is hanging from a thin chain. The number 7 is engraved on one of its sides. You keep it in your bag and retrace your steps to the surface, lost in monstrous thoughts. Go back to the map to keep exploring.
Ooh.
All right, so next up was 64.
All that from the first place on the map?
Yep. You walk up to a hole in the ground that's demarcated by 8 segmented limestone walls. Each of them has a burr of stone sticking out, like a wave frozen in time, and is crowned by studs that resemble teeth. It looks like a disturbing, fang-covered mouth carved on the ground. You stand near the edge and peek inside. It's a tunnel whose other extreme is lost in the depths of the earth, always shunning the sunshine. Never does the sun stand in such a vertical alignment with this pit so as to illuminate its bottom. They were seeking eternal night, total darkness for whatever dwells down there. A night dial instead of a sundial? Does darkness even set the time? Some far-fetched lapse of time? The metallic music you heard before comes, at least partly, from down here. Down there, deep down. There's something that produces that music when the wind sweeps past these galleries. You can't fathom what sort of artifact or alien musical instrument could make such a sound. Suddenly you notice something. Whenever the music plays, the wind sweeps sand down the tunnel and it retrieves it later. You could jump inside with confidence without risking your legs. You just wait until the pit is exactly half full of sand. Considering that in just one cycle it takes 17 hours for the wind to fill the tunnel with sand and another 17 to empty it, and that each hour it fills with twice the volume of sand of what it was before, at what exact time would you have to jump so that it's exactly half full? I didn't realize we were doing math problems.
What?
If you know the answer to the riddle, go to the corresponding page.
Oh.
Otherwise, return to the map. So let me read that again in case anyone wants to figure out it is a word problem. Whenever the music plays, the wind sweeps sand down the tunnel and retrieves it later. You could jump inside with confidence without risking your legs if you could just wait until the pit is exactly half full of sand. Considering that in just one cycle, it takes 17 hours for the wind to fill the tunnel with sand, and another 17 to empty it, and that each hour it fills with twice the volume of sand that there was there before, what exact time would you have to jump so that it's exactly half full? We'll give you a moment to figure that out if you like. Otherwise, we'll return to the map.
What do you think, chat? Did everyone bring their graphing calculators? Oh, somebody says 4. 4.5.
I think there's a page 4.5.
Well, you just turn to page 4 and look halfway, right? Are you looking at page 4, Jimmy?
I am.
Did they figure it out?
I don't think so.
Let's see. Let's read it one more time for anyone trying to figure it out.
You wait until the pit is exactly half full of sand. Considering that in just one cycle, it takes 17 hours for the wind to fill the tunnel with sand, and another 17 to empty it. And each hour it fills with twice the volume of sand of what was there before. What exact time do you have to jump so that it's exactly half full? It looks like we can't figure it out, so we'll go back to the map, and we are going to go to 61 next.
Oh, that sounds good.
So back to the map, going over to the other side of the city, where a bunch of large pillars were. A presence seems to stalk you from the ghostly rocks of the city. You try ignoring it as you walk to a double row of pillars that delineate a straight path, a road that wagons and people would have traversed in the old days. It would have been a sign of the prosperity of this place, now abandoned to who knows what horrible cataclysm. From afar, you discern a shape on top of each of the stone pillars, which rise at least 50 feet above the ground. You assume they might be the statues of old governors, like the ones crowning the peristyles of the Roman Empire. But as you get closer, you can make out more details. What you see is deeply disturbing. They are statues, but they don't represent human beings. Rather, they look like a cross of different animals. Two-legged and four-legged draconian reptiles mixed with satyrs, reminiscent of hyenas with broad foreheads. All of them in solemn poses, as if saluting days of glory now long gone. These gods, perhaps? Antediluvian myths turned to stone? Suddenly you hear a voice. A human voice. A man's. It scares you almost to death. You won't open it. You won't open it, shouts the voice, scaring you almost to death. You turn around and see a man come up from behind a column. He's old and his clothes are ragged. Unkempt and dirty beard hangs down his chin. The man runs to you and grabs you by your sleeve with pleading fingers, his vacant stare and trembling hands, unable to stay still even for a second, to make you think the poor man must be insane. The bronze door must remain closed, whatever happens, he shouts in a foreign accent. I've looked at the Pond of Revelations and have seen what could happen if they crossed the door to this world. You mustn't open it. Who are you? You ask him, trying to calm him down. You have the unpleasant feeling you know this man, and that you've seen him before in some faraway place. What are you talking about, sir? What door? And who are you? The old man's teeth chatter, and an agonizing cramp seems to make all his muscles tense. The one that connects to the other city. The one up above. It must never be opened. Bury the keys. Bury the keys. Judging by the remains of his clothes, it's clear that this is a survivor of a previous expedition. Then it hits you. His skewed chin, curious eyes, and the scars of long-ago smallpox all over his face finally fall into place. It's your colleague from the Research Society at Miskatonic, Sir Richard Burton. You remember that a year ago he left for the desert of Araby, although supposedly somewhere quite distant from here, in an expedition financed by the Victor Heisenberg Gentlemen's Society. His purpose? To find clues of the existence of pre-Homo sapien civilization in the deep desert. Richard! You shout, grabbing him by his shoulders. But how? What are you doing here? What happened to the expedition? We saw it. We saw them, he mumbles. Dear God, they were horrible. And what level of perfection they reached in their civilization. They built the city from the ground, then lost it when the air on the surface became unbreathable, so full of the damned oxygen. They had to retreat to their underground caves, where they were safe, where they could breathe their own air. They? Who do you mean? Those who built the statues for their gods? There's no gods, you damn fool! The statues are a representation of themselves, he shouts to you, completely deranged. The old man breaks into a run, surprisingly nimble, and you struggle to keep up. You see how he slips through a fissure in the base of one of the columns that creates a cave. Here's where I found it, the biggest discovery of all. What? You ask him. What was it that you found, Richard? The pond! Or the meteorite water released by the old asteroids. It's the water that connects to your mind and then predicts the other times and other places. Also the key, the accursed key, forged with a meteorite mineral. He shows you a worn-out bag and produces a key from its inside. It's the oddest you've ever encountered, and its shape does not seem to fit the human hand. It's made of a material you fail to identify, but it shines lightly in the dark. The number 62 is etched on one of its sides. What could that mean? The old man hands it to you, with ease, but as if he... not with ease, but as if he is sharing something quite dangerous. Hide it. Hide it, I beg of you, he moans. My strength is gone. But what happened, Richard? You ask, exasperated. What happened to your colleagues? Did the bandits of the desert ambush you? The old man laughs. It's the tragic laughter of a demented mind. He shakes his head. No, not bandits. Not even humans, no. It was them. I saw them coming in the water. My colleagues wouldn't heed my words. They took me for a fool. Can you believe it? You shake your head, resigned. Keep the key in your bag and turn to page 33. Yes, they took me for a fool, but I saw it all in the water. I saw the images and I tried to warn them. In the end, they disappeared, buried in the sand, swallowed by the music from below. And there was only me. Good old Burton. A soft laugh escapes from the gaps in his teeth. Only me. What damn pond are you talking about? He points at something down at the end of the cave. Looks like a baptismal font made of stone. Font whose antiquity numbs your senses. It's a piece of art that dates long before the myths of the Western man. It's full of lapis lazuli-colored liquid, with extraordinary reflections rippling off of it, as if they were playing with a source of light. Water of dreams, the man murmurs with terror. Will you look inside it, trying to find whatever might have driven Burton insane? Or will you be more sensible? Will you look in the water? Or not? What do we think, chat?
Oh man, we should look.
Look in the water or don't? A very, very blue water. One vote for. Look! No!
No.
Anyone want to break the tie?
I say we look.
Brandon says we look? Alright.
Also, we need to figure out what that key is for.
Right. We have two of them now.
Chat says it's too blue. Don't do it.
It's too blue. Somewhat reluctantly, you inch towards the water. The liquid reflects the light in 1,000 asymmetrical prisms. Leaning over the basin and looking inside, something incredible happens. At first, it's just changed in color, as if the liquid knew someone or something was staring at it and was reacting to the contact of the observer. But then it starts bubbling, which is odd since there's no heat, and then it bursts into images, violent waterfalls, unmoving pictures, so that you cannot really tell whether you're actually seeing them or if they are in your mind. Burton laughs behind you. Another witness of the great revelation? Oh my God, another witness! He cries, shooting his arms into the air. Show him the truth, you magnanimous beings! Show him the truth so he is aware too and ready for the upcoming times! His demented tirade goes on, but you no longer are listening. Your gaze is fixed on the images displayed by the water. And they are the most terrifying things you've ever seen. Because you see them, and in return, they see you too.
Oh no.
You see the reptilian creatures clad in shapeless rags, building temples, making the city. When did this happen? 100, 200,000 years ago? 10 million, perhaps? You see them using some strange machinery to lift large rocks into place, one on top of the other. It's a purely theological society, based on the compliance of rituals and cults for nameless deities. It's the chronicle of a mighty seacoast metropolis that ruled the world before Africa came out of the waves. You see their wars and triumphs, their tribulations and defeats. You see them eventually retreating to the depths when the air became unbreathable for them. Digging in search of the world their prophets spoke of. They are down there, underground, still. When the vision dissolves, you see Burton's body by your side. He's dead. He's left you alone again. At least you got the key. Once you've buried him, return to the city map on pages 102 and 103.
What? Well,
All right.
we do have the key. That's
We have two keys. This map.
we just went to 64.
We did 91, 64, and then 61.
Well, what do you think, chat?
We've survived so far.
Let's see. They said first 91.
Yeah. Then 64. We did 61. I think there we go. 58. That's what I was thinking. Right, 58. When you walk up to the structure that emerges from the dunes, you realize it's not only very tall and rectangular, but also quite narrow, thin, just like a wall, or rather, a door. The latter becomes more likely as you walk around it and examine it carefully. It looks like a bronze plate covered by layers and layers of caked sand. This antiquated relic is so immense that it defies any logical explanation for its size. This door leads nowhere. It seems to be watching you, looking at you sideways from the primordial rocks and from the temples that surround the door like sullen watchmen. There are carvings on the enormous bronze plate. As you scrutinize them, you try to draw them in your diary. You wonder what sort of archaic technology could not only carve but raise this metallic plate that must weigh a ton. Yes, the Egyptians did build the pyramids, but whoever built this bronze door possessed a knowledge that has been now lost. The question that worries you the most: why would one place a door in the middle of nowhere? Where did the builders think it would lead? Or is its origin symbolic, perhaps even religious or ceremonial, like the Celtic dolmens? A close examination of the engravings casts some light on the mechanism which, in theory, could open the large door. You find 3 holes concealed within the engravings, which could be locks, each with a different shape. If you held all 3 keys, you could activate some sort of invisible mechanism that might well be concealed inside the structure of the door.
Ooh.
Question is, even if you manage to find 3 keys and open it, where will that get you if the door seems to lead nowhere? Hidden in the Nameless City are 3 keys. There's a different number etched on each of them. When you find all 3, add the 3 numbers and go to the resulting page to open the bronze door. Till then, keep exploring. So we have 2 of them already.
Do it.
We got number 7 from the Chronicler, and we got number
62.
Is it 62? We got one from Burton.
Well, that one had 62 on it.
Did it? Okay. All right. We're nearing time, so I'm just going to pick a place we haven't been yet. We haven't been to 10 or 22. 22... We'll go to 10. 10's nearby.
Even if we find the key, should we open the door?
Right.
Some doors are better left closed.
4 pillars that look like a cracked obelisk emerge from the ground, and they seem to sprout around a common nucleus, like fingers of a buried hand. You step closer and see there are scratches on the stone near the top of the pillars. You hug the first obelisk and start climbing. You find it hard at first, but you fall a couple of times. Thankfully, the sand is soft. But you're determined to manage to reach the top. Undoubtedly, there's a sort of a hieroglyph, but they didn't look nothing like the Egyptians or Chaldeans, nor do they resemble those of any ancient civilization. The antiquity of these scratches reminds you of Sarnath the Doomed, and the other cities of forgotten land of Nar. They don't represent any living creatures, not even humanoids, but they seem like a complex clutter of ideograms, with some numeric correlation. You spend more than an hour climbing up stone fingers like a monkey, reading inscriptions until you eventually convince yourself there really is a mathematical connection hidden somewhere. Problem is, it's so cryptic that you don't know what it is. But a privileged university mind like yours shouldn't have a hard time figuring it out.
Oh.
Throwing hands up in despair, turn to page 11. Suddenly, a ray of sun sets on the top of one of the obelisks and is refracted in many light beams. It's a beautiful scene because the light seems to needle its way through like a mesh of fine threads of light that ties the stone pillars together. There's an equivalence in the connected symbols. There's an icon on top of each pillar, and in front of each of these, another 3 are mirrored. 2 are upside down, and another 2 look like a mathematical extrapolation of the first. How many symbols are there in total? If you know the answer, add 2 to the result and go to the corresponding page.
Wait, what?
If that page does not make sense, you better check your map. Otherwise, return to the map.
Is there a picture of it?
There's not. So the ray hits the top of the obelisks, reflecting many light beams. There's equivalence to the connected symbols. There's an icon on the top of each pillar, and in front of each of those, another 3 are mirrored. 2 are upside down, and another 2 look like a mathematical extrapolation of the first. How many symbols are there in total?
How many symbols?
How many total symbols are there? So there's an icon on top of each pillar, and in front of each of those, another 3 are mirrored.
Did it say how many pillars there were?
4. There are 4 pillars. On top of each pillar, there's an icon.
Okay.
And in front of each icon, there are 3 other ones mirrored. 2 are upside down, and another 2 look like mathematical extrapolations of the first. How many symbols are there in total?
Any ideas, chat? One says 3, someone says 4. I think there's 12. What do you think, Jimmy?
I'm a little stuck because it says there's 3 mirrored, but 2 are upside down, another 2 are mathematical extrapolations. So that's 4.
Well, whether they're upside down or not, they're just one symbol.
Right.
That's the way I viewed it.
It could
There's 4 pillars, and each one has 3 things on it.
Which one has the icon plus 3?
Oh, so there's 16.
So you think 16, so that would put us at page 18? And chat says 3 and 4, so it would be pages 5 and 6. We'll peruse through those answers and see if any of them look correct. It's not 3. And then you said...
I said 16 plus...
16, so it'd be 18?
18?
Nope.
All right, read it one more time.
Well, we have one other answer, which is 4, which puts us at page 6.
Page 6.
Rightly so. Although some symbols appear upside down and others are extrapolations, no one here has inquired not about the type of symbol, but their number. And if there are 4 stone pillars, that means there are only 4 symbols. Well thought.
Okay.
You decipher a mathematical key with which to interpret the meaning of these hieroglyphs. You conclude that it is a solar calendar. It's got nothing to do with our sun, but with a faraway star in the Puppis constellation that is only visible at certain moments of the year. Word has it that it's one of the hottest stars in the universe, a small white dwarf only 3 times the size of Earth. Seemingly, the obelisks count down the unfathomable time left for it to cool down and become a black dwarf. What horrible astronomical meaning will that concurrence have when it takes place in, let's see, 5 times 4 plus the cosine of the square root of pi. You do the math mentally. A trillion years, give or take a century? The hieroglyphs don't say so, but it's bound to be related to the awakening of something that now lies asleep among the clouds of space dust, somewhere where there's only coldness and darkness. Go back to the map. Which leaves us one remaining location, which is 22. So we'll go there. You venture farther into the brooding ruins, hidden under the sand like an ogre under a coverlet, and you make it to one of the buildings whose outline stands out. It looks like a dilapidated temple. It's very old, and the decorations on the walls resemble the friezes from Lower Egypt. But in this case, they are arranged in following a hexagonal pattern, as though the walls were covered in snake scales. The very entrance to the building reminds you of a giant snake's mouth whose fangs the architect turned into columns. In the deep sockets of his eyes lie shiny lapis lazuli stones. The unnatural, mechanical sound of strangely familiar music emerges from this place, swept by a strong gale that manifests from the serpent's mouth. The immense snake's throat must be connected to the other large galleries, or to exits to distant places of the desert. You pluck up the courage to light your burner and step into the darkness.
Ooh.
You are surrounded by a gloom so heavy that even in the light of your burner struggles to find its way. But one thing is clear. This was once a great city, very powerful, such as Ur or Babylon in their time. And you wonder about the origins of such greatness. The temple is lower on the inside. The magnificence of its walls becomes a labyrinth of low ceilings and claustrophobic chambers that make no sense at all. You see many complex scratches on the wall that could be read as hieroglyphs. They show images of a very industrious city of great technological and social prowess. But what really gets your attention, apart from the fact that these coarse figures resemble reptiles rather than humans, is that no picture represents death. It's a curious omission, since most primitive cities were more than obsessed with the concept and the rites of the passage to the other life. These beings, however, don't worship or represent death in their friezes. It's as if for them, extinction, both at a personal and collective level, were an extravagant idea, and they somehow aspired to find eternal life. You walk into a collapsed wall that won't let you through. However, in an adjacent corridor, you find a game of levers and symbols that might well be numbers. It looks like a mathematical progression etched on stone. Incomplete. It's the following: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's about equal to 0. 90812 is about equal to 4. I'll put these up on the screen in a minute. What number will follow and replace the question mark? What will happen when you complete the series? So let's put this series up here so I'm not reading it out loud and having everyone forget them.
Gosh,
Can we focus on that or no?
it's focused.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals 0. Approximately 0.
Welcome in, SJGames. I assume that is Daryl or Brandon. Great Cthulhu Falcon.
That's me.
Wrong story. Any thoughts, chat, on what number goes there?
No one told me there would be this much math.
Right?
I'm not prepared. I don't have paper or calculator.
All right. Well, our options are, if we want to guess, 1, 3, 6, or 9.
Really? 36 or 9?
1, 3, 6, or 9. So, which lever do we want to pull?
What do you think, Chad?
Six.
That's 2 for 6.
All right. Not page 6, lever 6. Goes to page 71. You think you've guessed right when you pull the lever. A secret lateral passage opens up to your left. It leads you to the outermost core of the building. You find the low ceilings claustrophobic and they leave you distressed. You got it right. Of course, the result was the number of circles or zeros in each one. There are 6 circles in 09086. If you count the 2 there are in 8, so the right answer is 6. You walk with extreme care in the dark. The moon is visible through a skylight. It seems to be shaking, as if reflected in a pond of quivering waters. For some unknown reason, you find the sight comforting, even though you feel more scared than words could tell, although not enough to quash your thirst for wonders. This new George Aberdeen that ventures into the deepest chamber of the building is no longer your old shy self, but a feisty explorer like the ones who filled the gaps of all the empty maps of Africa. And he heads for the deepest chamber of the temple. What will he find? The chamber it leads to is wide and circular, and there don't seem to be any windows. Not even in past times, when the desert hadn't buried it yet, did it have any ventilation. Vestiges of old paintings cover the walls, curious wavy lines whose paint is peeled off. And in the center of the great chamber is a pedestal. On it, a key. At least, it looks like a key, although the shape of the bow suggests it wasn't made for a 5-fingered hand. You walk to it with its golden shimmer, for it seems to be carved out of gold, glittering in your eyes. feeling of cruel greed numbs your senses. This is how Sir Alan Quatermain felt when he saw Solomon's treasures in the depths of Africa for the first time.
Hmm.
The number 37 is etched on the side of this key. What could it mean? There's nothing left to explore here. Keep the key in your pocket and return the main map. Alright. So we have the third key.
Is it? Where did we get the one that had 7?
The chronicler gave it to us.
The guy down in the city?
The guy down in the city.
Okay.
Alright. So we will go back to the door. Add the 3 numbers and go to the resulting page to open the bronze door. 62, 37, and 7.
106.
106.
We are going through the door.
Well, we got the keys.
We might as well. And what could possibly go wrong?
You've managed to find the 3 keys. Amazing. Crawling in exhaustion, joints burning in pain and fatigue, you near the large door and stick each key into its socket. Since they are very different in size, shape, and weight, it's not hard to find out which belongs where. When you're done, you turn them in the opposite direction for the movement of the sun. It's bound to have some mysterious meaning somewhere. Large bronze plate moans and trembles as if alive. The carvings on the door, showing seas and continents whose names humans have forgotten, break down into thin cascades of dust. You step back frightened, and you see that a thin slit of light has snapped the plate in 2, right down the middle. It's not any ordinary light, and that's what scares you the most. It looks like a luminescence that's been stolen from another sun. Light from other times, irradiated in the past geological eras that were yet to succumb to decay. The door trembles and opens at last, after keeping a silent watch for thousands of years. The door opens before you. Turn to page 109. The door opens ominously, but what's on the other side doesn't correspond to the reality of your world. It's not the desert that one would reasonably expect to find. It's not even part of the Nameless City. What the door reveals is a nimbus of golden light, path to some other place, a tunnel made of light that leads to undreamt places. And like the scientist you are, you surprise yourself by putting one foot in front of the other, inching your way into the large, shining rectangle, until it swallows you. How do you convey a trip to infinity in words? A change of reality and paradigm. There might not be a language that adheres to such realities, but your eyes see it. Your brain absorbs a torrent of colors, odd geometries, and wild dimensions. When it's all over, you are on the other side, standing before a new landscape, a world that is alien to you. Suddenly your presence catches the eye of the things that inhabit it. The door, needless to say, closed behind you. Now that it's impossible to return to your world, your only option is to go on.
Just need to look for the closest Walmart.
An obviously lunar landscape welcomes you, not unlike the Earth's moon, with its craters and smooth mountains of fine white dust. In the middle stands a city that mirrors what you knew in your time as the Nameless City, but splendid and majestic, full bloom. You see it full of short, industrious beings, busy with their chores, who spread their wings and fly towards you when they spot you, as if asking themselves who the intruder might be. And the strangest thing is the lack of air doesn't kill you. You're still alive, still breathing, as if the pressure of an invisible dome that covered the whole crater were able to maintain the basic conditions for life inside of it. The sky is teeming with asteroids, where there are luminous cities in some of them, shining with million pinpricks of light, inhabited. You can't tell whether you're in an incredibly remote past or in a distant future in which the moon has broken up into pieces and formed a ring around its mother planet. A ring where these things, these beings, have finally succeeded in building their own ideal civilization. As a scientist, you might have gone too far, even for the most extreme frontiers of science. The end.
Ooh. Or is it just the beginning?
And that was one telling through of the Nameless City. One of the previous books in the Choose Cthulhu series of books. Game novels, game books, however you want to refer to them.
Adventure books.
Adventure books. We are, if you have missed us at the beginning, we are doing a Kickstarter for the next several volumes, books 7 through 10 of this series. Brandon will link it in the chat. So if you would like to back, we have made our initial goal already. We are approaching the stretch goal that will add bookmarks, one for each book, if you're getting physical rewards. There are other Cthulhu related things that are add-ons there. And this campaign's running for
9 more days.
9 more days. So go check it out. We have 450 backers in there already. And if you like these sorts of stories and work your way through them, there's plenty more of them. And you can get some of these original versions as well as add-ons in the set that's going out now. So we want to thank you for coming by today and having a little creepy, spooky season reading with us for Choose Cthulhu. We will be back next week at 2 p.m. Central Time on the same Twitch channel here, and doing something else. Do I know yet? No, because I don't have that tab open. But we'll be back with it'll be some sort of game next week. We're unboxing. We'll be looking at probably some of the new stuff that's coming out later in October. I just got to look at which one of the things that it is that's coming out. You're welcome. Thank you all for showing me. Daryl, if you've got any last minute questions for Daryl, or if we've forgotten anything, we talked to him about the bookmarks and the stretch goals and things like that. Feel free to mention it now.
Yeah, Daryl, somebody asked if they could get bookmarks on digital-only PDF backing levels. We think the answer is no, but if you could confirm, that would be great.
But yeah, it's nice to go in and do just a little bit less stuff, a little more atmospheric things going on here. We might be able to include a digital version, but we haven't talked about those yet. Got it. Right now, including the 4 bookmarks with backers who select physical pledges.
But if you were a so a physical pledge, they would be the only people that could get physical add-ons. Is that how it works?
The bookmarks.
Right. Well, like if you're a digital-only backer, can you also order physical add-ons? I think that was the actual question.
Okay.
Well,
Well, go ahead and you can follow up with those questions on the Kickstarter project. There we go. Good question. Likely it's still based on the pledge level and not the post-campaign add-ons. Got it. So you have to have a pledge level with physical rewards. That sounds about right. All right. So we will go ahead and check out that campaign. You can join us over there. You can join us on our Discord, follow us on our social medias, or come back here next week at 2 p.m. Central for more Steve Jackson Games Live. Thank you for dropping by, everybody. We will see you all next week. Have a good weekend.